Welcome to America's Heroes Group.
Welcome back to America's Heroes Group with our partner roundtable, Pink Berets. Saturday, September 16, 2023. September is National Suicide Prevention and Hispanic Heritage Month. Our host is Kelley. I'm Sean Claiborne, the co-host. Our executive producer is Glenda Smith. Our digital media producer is Ivan Ortega of Scotch Arnold Productions. And of course, we have our partner with us today again, Stephanie Gattas, U.S. Navy veteran, founder and CEO of the Pink Berets, and L'Oreal Paris Woman of Worth. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on again. I'm excited.
It's our pleasure. So tell us about what you have coming up in Las Vegas, and also what are some of the things you guys are doing in your mission now?
Oh, absolutely. I'm excited to share because it seems like we're really moving to the next level in terms of programming. So I can't wait to share that with you. But in Las Vegas, we were invited to speak at the Military Influencer Conference. And I really want to take time to highlight how incredible that opportunity is, because it does allow organizations like the Pink Berets to come in and talk about the work that we do at Ground Zero. So essentially, you're in this audience of people who you want to be in front of to talk to them about the very things that you're working on and who it is you're trying to reach, who it is you're trying to help, but also some of those stories that are left untold. So it really gives us a platform to share all the things that we're doing, but also all the additional help that our community of veterans are needing. And it's not just in Texas, it's across the nation. And so this really gives us an opportunity to highlight those needs.
And things you focus on is give people an idea: post-traumatic stress disorder, military sexual trauma, traumatic brain injury, TBI, and on a local and national level. And this has a connection. Can you explain this, how this connects to unemployment, homelessness, and suicide, particularly among women?
Oh, absolutely. So I'll use, a couple of people that we've had come into the organization recently who encountered unemployment. This particular woman has a child who has a health issue. And so she's been spending the majority of her time at the hospital with her child. This is also a woman who is, I don't want to say prideful, but it would take a lot for her to have to step forward and say, you know what, I need help, because she's a woman of strength. And for her to come out and say, I don't know how I'm going to feed my children. She goes, now my bills are paid. I made sure I paid for the house. I made sure I paid for the water and the electricity, for the vehicles, but I'm left with nothing to buy groceries. And to me, that's problematic. And if you can imagine, when someone is just in a position to have to determine if they can put food on the table for their little one, she has a 7-month-old, is got to be one of the most difficult challenges I think we tend to face. But think about the ones that don't have the ability to reach out, who really don't know what corner to turn in terms of finding help. That's where they end up becoming homeless. That's where they feel like all things have been exhausted in terms of help. And so then they think that their life's over. So why continue living? And so those suicidal ideations set in, and then you have suicide take place because they feel like there's nothing else left for them to do, or that there isn't any help out there. I can tell you, with the help of the community in San Antonio, we had additional veteran organizations that stepped in and allowed us to help this woman with groceries and then regular meals to be sent to her home until she was able to get on her feet. Not only that, we were able to help her find a part-time job, so that way she was able to have some additional income coming in to help buy the groceries, or to help pay maybe that surprise bill, or maybe help put towards the medical bill. So to me, it's one of those things where it can quickly spiral downward if their needs aren't addressed in a timely manner. And that's why you see a number of these issues arise. It takes people truly coming together and helping that one individual to success. But if that one individual doesn't know that that help exists, they're not going to seek it. So it's very important, especially for radio shows like yours, to be able to get this information out there so that people have hope and they know that there's organizations out there ready and willing to help.
I appreciate that. But tell us also, too, like where is the gap between what the VA provides and what veteran service organizations have to provide? So why is that gap there, and how can you describe that gap for people that are not in the military, that aren't veterans?
That is a great question. I can tell you from working on both sides of the aisle, right? Being involved in a committee for the VA and also being part of an organization for veterans and families. It's not that there's so much a gap as there is so much a need. So you have the VA really trying to, allow their system to take on the upheaval of requests that they're getting. And then you have people that are put on a waiting list because they don't have the means in terms of staffing to fulfill the requests that are coming in. And so you have more requests coming in than you do staff at the VA. And not that that is made to be an excuse, but that's factual. You have them really trying to place people in the position to help allocate those resources or to help people get their claims processed. But as big as the system is, the need is greater. There are people that need help out there. And now, to add to that, with the PACT Act being passed, you have even more claims that are being processed and a bigger need. Some of those people that are getting help now weren't able to get help a long time ago. And so now they're being put to the front of the line, like, okay, you've had to wait eons, it seems, and now we're going to put you in place to get the help you deserve. And so that's really where you see the gap in terms of people that are needing help. I know I've been there, sign up for an appointment. We don't have anything till March. Well, why do I have to wait till March? Because their schedules are full, right? And so people then come to organizations like the Pink Berets or the Wounded Warriors or Endeavors, and that's just to throw out a few examples, because they can't get an appointment or they can't get the resources that they're needing. You get the GI Forum to step in, San Antonio Coalition for Veteran Families. Women Veterans of San Antonio also does a lot of community work. So if you don't have those organizations in place to be an extension of service, then yes, that's where you're going to also see some of those issues with homelessness and suicide set in.
So how does your organization specifically, we talked about this a little bit last time when you talked about, I was really impressed with, using equestrian resources like horses to help, to help people get over PTSD and distract the mind and reshape and retool their spirit. What are some of the things that you guys do that you find the most powerful and successful to help people improve their lives?
It's the group activities that really allow women to feel like they're part of a unit again, right? Whatever that unit looked like then, they're now entering that kind of environment. And so they're building on the camaraderie. And we notice that that's something that women yearn for. Even before they come into the Pink Berets, they're telling us, I just feel like I'm isolated, like I don't have that support that I had when I was in my unit or when I was in the military. And that's why programming is so important, because they're not individualized. It's centered around group level activities. I'll give you a couple of examples. We have a new program that we're going to be launching next month. The new program that we're launching is being run by a professional woman boxer who is also an Army veteran, who has also competed to enter the Olympics, but chose to go professional. And so now she's going to be leading our first woman veteran boxing team in the U.S.
Wow.
That, to me, is going to allow women, again, to find what they connect with. Yes, you get the camaraderie, but now you're going to learn a sport. Now you're going to learn a new skill set. Or maybe you already have the skill set and you're going to enhance it. Those are the things that we're trying to do, is help them find their sense of purpose. And a lot of times it's not so much participating in the activity, it's really building bonds with the women that they're involved in that activity with. And then you get to see that things really start to change for them. Their journey looks different. Their hope is changing. I mean, everything that they thought wasn't in the cards for them, it's, now their future is looking brighter, right? So that's why the programming is important, but I find the most success is when we're putting them into a group level activity. That's why group activities with equine, group activities with culinary. Now this group activity with boxing, I think it's going to change really what it looks like for those that are wanting to be in that type of environment. Then that also helps me segue into our archery program. The archery program, again, these women are working as a unit. They're working as a team. And we have also seen them build a huge amount of camaraderie. I mean, the friendships that are being forged in these programs are really making a difference. And you see the change. And that's the thing, is that when you're at my level in terms of having the ability to walk into these programs and observe and engage, you really get the feeling that this is something that these women needed.
So usually when you go to Vegas, you want to keep secrets. You don't want to let anything out. Stays in Vegas. Goes to Vegas, stays in Vegas. But you want to tell everybody what happened in Vegas. So tell us one of the biggest things and impacts you saw in Vegas from what you guys were doing and all the work you were doing in that space.
So now we've been to Vegas already for the archery program. And the way that, well, let me put it this way. We could not have envisioned the reception that was received when we were there as an archery team. I was there as support in terms of leadership, but the director of the program, and we also call her the founder of the archery program, is a Paralympian, Leah Coriel. I mentioned her in our last radio show. She's a woman to be reckoned with. She's a powerful force. You wouldn't get that because she is diagnosed with MS and in a wheelchair, but her ability to compete, educate, guide these women to victory has been probably one of the most inspiring things I've ever witnessed. And so going to Vegas and having the opportunity to watch these women compete and to watch them say, like, this was on my bucket list. I would have never experienced this had I not joined this archery team, had I never come alongside Leah and learned how to, shoot archery. Those are the kinds of stories we want to tell. That's the kind of legacy we want to leave behind. And, going to Vegas again this time and being able to talk about what it is that we're doing, but also the successes and maybe some of the trial and error we've seen over the years is something that we're excited to do.
And what would you like to do in the future? So you've worked on the archery, you're doing boxing. What do you see as the next step or next group activity that would be really impactful, particularly for communities around the country?
Well, I will tell you this, we're working on what I would call micro chapters around the U.S. And I say that, and, we don't have the ability to take every single blueprint that we have in Texas and shift it around the U.S. So creating micro chapters, it's like starting little by little. What are the most successful programs we're seeing here that we can build on in other states? And right now we're building on that in Wyoming. Our chapter leader, Janine McNeil, is currently leading that initiative in Wyoming. And she works with the VA. She's working with an equine program. She's currently at a conference right now promoting the Pink Berets. And so that's the kind of vision we have across the U.S., because I can't tell you what pains me more than to have somebody who's in another state saying, we don't have resources like this. We don't have the ability to be a part of this. And for me, that really empowers us to work harder, work smarter, and extend our reach as much as we can in the future. The way that we're functioning right now, okay, we have a Catalyst retreat every year. Our Catalyst retreat, it has already closed for the applications. We've got a waiting list, but we're bringing women in from around the country. We have a woman that's coming in from Hawaii. We have a woman who's coming in from Pennsylvania. We have a woman who's coming in from Chicago. And that, to me, is one way that we're able to reach them. Okay, we'll bring you here for our annual retreat and allow you to experience everything in one weekend. Within 4 days, we're going to give you this experience, right? Mm-hmm. So for the future, that's what we're hoping to do.
We got an alarm going off. Still there? I think we lost Stephanie. Did we lose her?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's like an alarm's going off in the house, and I don't know what it is.
Hope it's not a smoke detector.
It sounds like that. But
make sure you're safe. We want you burning up on the radio.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're hoping to accomplish for the future. I mean, we're excited at what the possibilities look like, but I can tell you our long-term goal is to build one of our own centers, to build an all-inclusive center where women can come and call it their own. You know, right now, we go and we have our equine therapy at a facility. We're operating out of the Endeavors building, who again, it's a veteran wellness center, and they've been so gracious to allow us to do our programming there. But one day we want to have our own wellness center. We want to have our own equine property. You know, we want to have the ability to have an all-women's center.
You probably got to get you connected with the RHF guys. They have a Rick Hammer Foundation. They have a place called Rick's Place out in Georgia. I got the shows mixed up. But they're out in the south on one of the bases. And what they're doing, basically what you guys are doing, but in a whole different way. They're making they make courses for the kinds you see, the type of courses you see on American Ninja and all these different TV shows and NBC, things like that. These obstacle courses, kind of like what we've done in the military, going through these different obstacle courses, but on a way bigger scale. And it's mostly for families to come down and just to reconnect with their kids and their wives and their husbands, so that way they can have fun and share experiences and stories and create memories and kind of escape military life. So people that are veterans or people that are in the military can just use that as a getaway. So it's called Rick's Place after a veteran who passed, and I believe it was Afghanistan. But I would love to see if we can help you guys or maybe connect you guys so that you can share some of those ideas and develop this. I think these are very good spaces for people to get away and kind of reconnect with their thoughts and heal. I think that's really, really important. And can you tell us a little bit about how the military experience is different for a woman versus what you might think is how most men experience the military, and some of the challenges that women face as veterans that's different from what men might face?
That's a great question. I mean, I would say it's definitely individual based. Everybody has a very different experience, but I would say for the most part, I think they're trying to, and I say they, meaning, the armed forces, the military, it's addressing each soldier the same, and really the needs are very different. They're vastly different. And I think that's where we find some of the challenges is that, it's not an one-size-fits-all scenario in the military. What works for a man in his role or his MS isn't going to apply to a woman. And so it's just very different to certain degrees. But think, also there were roles that weren't available to women back in the day, and now they are. And so I do feel like, women have an opportunity to really show their capabilities or talents more so than they did before. But I also think you have some of those people in the military that have a very traditional mindset, and they're still not prepared for women taking on these roles in the military. And so I think that it's really going to take time for there to be that
growth maybe, or that evolution?
Evolution, I think, is a better term for this, because I still hear some women saying that they're treated a certain way, and it's not that women are expecting to be treated differently. I think what they're expecting is the same respect, and rightfully so, right? Mm-hmm. There's still some challenges from what we're learning when it comes to that. And, there's women that are still encountering a lot of issues when it comes to sexual harassment and sexual assault. And so think about the enormity of that issue that we're having to tackle, but also in the same breath say, respect each other, right? At the end of the day, we're what we have. We're fighting for the same things. We're sharing the same values, the same mission, right? That ethos is carved in all of us. So why is it so difficult for us to be able to work with one another that way? So I think somewhere, it depends on the individual. It always comes down to individual. Because I can tell you there's some extraordinary men in the military, there's some extraordinary women in the military, and it just depends on who has that mindset when it comes to being able to help empower women in the military.
Fayetteville, North Carolina. That's where the workplace is. I was trying to figure out I remember I thought it was in Georgia for a second, but it's Fayetteville, North Carolina. Just came to me. But I wanted to ask you this as well, because there was an article in Army Times. You talked about something that I think is really important to touch on since you brought this topic up, and it's also one of the facts on your website. On your website, you mentioned that 71% of all women who join the military suffer PTSD due to some type of sexual assault. Okay, which is serious. That means, I thought about that. So, well, if 71% of women are suffering PTSD from sexual assault, that means there's probably more women than that who actually experience sexual assault.
That is correct. That is correct. And we discussed this too at the DOD level. And I can tell you, when you look at that report out of the Department of Defense, those numbers have increased instead of decreased. And it begs the question, is it because more women are lifting their voices, or more men, feel inclined to talk about what's happening to them? I don't know that that's necessarily the case. I think that, you have to really have evaluations done at each base to evaluate, where you're finding the toxicity, because it's there, but where does it lie? Does it lie in leadership? Does it lie in, what point of the seniority is it taking place? Because it's happening at such a rate that they're not able to put the fire out. And that's the issue right now, is instead of being able to say, we're getting things under control, we're seeing a decrease in numbers, you're seeing an increase. And so, yes, to answer your question, there's still people that have not come forward. And we get some of those stories. We get some of those women that come to us and say, listen, I don't want to be ostracized. I don't want retribution. If I say something, I don't know if I'm going to live to see the next day. That might sound a little dramatic, but that's what's happening.
Right. We've had a few cases of that in the news, media, where we've had female soldiers and airmen that have been killed because of some type of sexual assault case that went sideways. On that topic as well, there's a case that was written about in the Army Times. I won't name the people that are involved because they, for privacy reasons, things like that, although it has been written about. But I guess from this particular case, this was a sexual contact charge dismissed for an ex-Fort Cavazos brigade commander. So the issue, though, about this one I wanted to ask you about is not about the case itself, because none of us were there, none of us knows what happened. The charges were abusive sexual contact, which was dismissed. Okay, so now it's just a case of unbecoming activities, or whatever the charge is called, activities of unbecoming of an officer or something like that. I forget the actual official title, but in the military we know what that means basically. Conduct unbecoming of an officer basically is what it is. So he allegedly groped and kissed a subordinate's wife without consent while the husband was away on field exercises. So that was dismissed and tossed out. So now it's just conduct unbecoming of an officer. However, what I wanted to ask you about wasn't about the case. We don't know what happened with the case, but the defendant's attorney made this comment, and this is what the comment was. Unfortunately, lawmakers' continued insistence that every alleged victim is truthful and that every case should be prosecuted to the fullest leads to prosecutors and commanders forcing charges that are unsupported and contradicted by the evidence in the case. That was actually said by a female attorney, Sherry Bunn. I'll say her name because she said it, and she's the attorney, and that's also public record. Now, what is your thought on that? Because some people do believe that there's too much attention being brought upon sexual misconduct, and maybe things are being overblown, or things are people are going too far with these investigations. What's your thoughts on that?
I would tell you that 90% of the time, and I'll leave 10% for the rarities. 90% of the time, you will find that those cases that do present sexual assault, sexual harassment, and I hate to call it sexual assault because it's rape at the end of the day, right? Let's not try to pretty up the terminology here. And it's a crime. And when you talk about crimes at this level and they want to get a lesser charge, they really try to dummy down what actually took place. And so I do believe that you're still seeing a huge instance of these types of activities taking place, of these types of crimes taking place on base. But because there's such a spotlight on this, people really don't want to be known for that because they know it can get really out of hand and very quickly. Something that I want to do next month is I want to bring on our chief legal advisor, Don Christensen. He has been at the forefront of numerous cases similar to this. And I can tell you right now, he would really be able to lend a lot of knowledge and an understanding to why we're facing the things that we're facing still today that he's dealt with for years. And I think that would really, really help you see the big picture in terms of, wow, yes, it's been happening for years, but why are we looking at this through a different lens? Right? And I think that's what they're trying to do right now is they're trying to skew your perspective so that you feel maybe it's not as bad as they say it is. I'm here to tell you it is.
Wow.
It's that bad.
And even as a person who served myself, the things I've seen in the military, it's bad. I mean, and unfortunately, a lot of it, I think, has to do with the culture because you do have a lot of young men who are, 18, 19 to 24 who are, away for the first time. It's almost like a college mentality because you don't have parental supervision, but you're in a military setting. But you in some cases have even more freedom because you're getting a paycheck every month. You have all-post passes, or you can go all-post if you're serving full-time on a base, and things happen. People do stuff, and then you have, you've been locked up doing, field duty or whatever, and you want to burn off some steam, and things that aren't supposed to happen. I've seen guys go to prison because they raped someone off, on off-base pass. So, I mean, that is, that's a reality. So, but we're out of time. Thank you for coming back again. And also, I want to see you have some great information for us next month. I really appreciate that. You're already kind of giving us a teaser as to what you're going to talk about.
Yes. And thank you for having me on again. I appreciate, the opportunity to be on your platform and to be able to share everything that we're doing. But also, thank you for everything you're doing.
I appreciate that. This is America's Heroes Group. We'll be right back.